All right, I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors to order. As always, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Yeah, we'll wait for Jim. Howdy, Jim. No, you're good. Good Lord. We do have a quorum. We do need to adopt an agenda. Anybody have anything that they want to add to the agenda this evening?
Just an update, whether you want to strike it or we'll just say continued once you get to it. I was informed, in talking with Mr. Ponton with REC about the conduit license agreement. We anticipated having that by close of business Friday, but then told Monday. We do not have that item, so that is not an actionable item for today.
Let's remove number 8. Does that work for everybody?
And we'll bring that back as old business when we have that in hand.
All right, anybody else have anything? The only one that I talked to Mr. Elias, and I told him I'd ask if we wanted to discuss it, is talking about the code of ethics and the Hart case and whether or not, if we wanted to discuss what they're claiming as a code of ethics, a breach of code of ethics. I said I'd bring it up, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous in every way, but that's just kind of that's where I am on it. If y'all, just a comment.
Now, well, I guess since I'm the one that's kind of be pointed at, I'll recuse myself from this conversation.
All right.
Same.
All right. All right. What would y'all like to do? Would you like to add it or not? I think that's kind of the question at this point. And I appreciate y'all recusing yourselves, but I don't think it's a recused thing. I think they just more wanted to hear us discuss it, and the claim of it, and whether or not we felt it was a breach of the code of ethics, and that's just what it is.
So can I make a comment and then?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm going to say we don't need to hear it because I'm not going to step on anybody's First Amendment rights. That's my take on it.
I tend to agree with that. And I think the comments have been taken out of context in a big way.
I have to agree.
Yeah.
Agreement.
What would y'all like to do as far as adopt the agenda? We know about number 8, and I think either the motion would be to include the discussion on the code of ethics or not to include the discussion. Where would y'all like to go?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda without number 8 and without the discussion about the code of ethics.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. All right. Public comment. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Smith.
Handy. Thank you, dear. Having attended the majority of the budget hearings, the workshops, I want to thank you all for the effort you obviously put into keeping any increases to the minimal possible. You all obviously have taken into account the impact inflation, shrinkflation, and loss of jobs, most notably Palau and Hearth, has had on the residents of Madison. This has obviously adversely affected many in meeting the needs of themselves and their families. However, my next object is going to seem counterintuitive. We attended the original Hoover Ridge hearings or presentation by Virginia Tech. The current proposal, which is exceptional, is not totally adequate. For that reason, I have given you the majority of my remarks, and I would like you to put on a wish list for the future an ADA compliant mini golf, so that this is truly an intergenerational facility. Now, this came to me 4 days ago. I already have an investor kit. I have spoken with a developer of 800 mini golf courses in Pennsylvania. And this might well be not only viable, but it will also be a revenue generator, and it will give our younger people in particular something of recreational value if they're not into sports. The rest, as soon as I make copies of this stuff, I will be giving them to Jonathan and to whomever else might be interested. And also, I would like you to consider at some point even farther down an arcade, because I do love skee ball. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neff. I guess you all have been thinking about mini golf today. That caught me off guard. There you go. That's very good. Other public comments? Anybody watching us online, Alan? Total of 0. There you go. We're consistent. All right, let's move on. We've got consent agenda. We've got minutes from 2/22/2024, and then minutes from 2/27/2024. Anybody have any direction on those comments?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Special appearances. Mr. Foley, welcome. Come on up and tell us about our audit.
Good evening, members of the board. Thank you all for having me here this evening. My name is David Foley. I'm a partner with Robinson House Associates, and we perform the financial audit for the county's FY ending June 30th, 2023. And we have completed that audit and here to present the results of that to you all. As part of the audit, we issue 2 different documents. One, the audited financial statements, and then second, our communication letter with those charged with governance. I'll first start with the audited financial report. And before I get into the results of the audit, just like to give a brief overview of the audit that we do for the county. So when we do the financial audit for the county, there's really 3 main pieces to that audit that we do. One is we audit the county's financial statements to make sure that the county's financial statements have been prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. The other 2 parts of the audit we do in accordance with government auditing standards, one of which is, in addition to just looking at the numbers themselves, we gain an understanding and review the county's internal controls that it has over its financial reporting. We do this in order to design our tests, audit tests appropriately, and in certain instances, we will test those controls to see if they're operating effectively. And then the third piece of the audit is a federal compliance piece, in accordance with uniform guidance. So anytime a organization or a locality expends over $750,000 in federal grant funds, you require them to go this federal compliance single audit as part of the financial statements. So those are the 3 main pieces of the audit that we do. So as such, included in the county's audited financial statements are 3 different reports from us that communicate the results of the audit. The first is towards the front of the report. It's on numbers page 7, and this is our independent auditor's report. And in this report is where we say we did perform an audit on the county's financial statements. and is also where we issue our opinion on the county's financial statements. And we have issued a unmodified opinion on the county's financial statements, which is the cleanest opinion in order to get on a set of financial statements. Basically, an unmodified opinion means that the county's financial statements have been prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. The other two reports from us are in the back of the report. Starting on page 162, this is the compliance section of the report. And on page 162 is our report over the county's internal controls over financial reporting. This report was clean as well. We noted no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in the county's internal controls that it has over its financial reporting. Also, no other items of internal control issues we noted that need to be reported in a separate management letter. And then 2 pages over is the third and final report from us, which is our report over the county's compliance with its major federal grant programs. And this report was clean as well. We noted no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in the county or school board's compliance with its major federal grant programs. Also, no items of non-compliance were noted as part of the audit. So again, all 3 reports from us were clean. So clean audit for the county for FY '23. Just would like to highlight just a couple of financial statements. Back towards the front on page 23 is Exhibit 3. Exhibit 3 is the balance sheet for the county's governmental funds. This statement reports the assets, liabilities, deferred inflows, and fund balances for the county's governmental funds at the end of fiscal year 2023. And then there's various columns, one for the general fund, which is the main operating fund for the county, and then the capital improvement fund. But as you can see, about midway down the page, the total fund balances for the general fund fund balance ended with a total fund balance of $26.5 million. And then that fund balance is further broken down between non-spendable, restricted, assigned, and unassigned. And then the next page over is a statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance for the county's governmental funds. This report shows the revenues, expenditures, and then changes in the fund balance for the county's governmental funds. Again, separate columns for the different funds for the county. So for FY '23, we can see down towards the bottom, the county's general fund balance increased by $2.4 million during the fiscal year. So positive year for the county. Those are just a couple of the financial statements that I wanted to point out. Jump quickly here to our communication letter with those charged with governance. So this, auditing standards require that we communicate certain items to you all at the end of an audit. We do so in the form of this governance letter. Just briefly like to go through a few of these, just some qualitative aspects of accounting practices. Here we communicate that management is responsible for the selection and appropriate use of accounting policies. Accounting estimates are an integral part of preparing the county's financial statements. For example, management's estimate of depreciable lives related to capital assets in terms of calculating depreciation expense, and also management's estimate of the pension and other post-employment benefit liabilities. which those estimates are determined by an actuary that calculates what those estimates are. Difficulties encountered in performing the audit, we had no difficulties in dealing with management and performing the audit. Really, all the county staff does an excellent job in working with us during the audit. They do a great job of having a bunch of information ready for us when we come on site so that we can jump right into it, and then also do an excellent job of answering any questions while we're in the field, and also pulling any additional information that we need. We certainly understand that the county staff is dealing with their normal day-to-day job, and then having 4 auditors walking in and out of your office for a couple weeks can be, I'm sure can be a little bit of a hassle, but they do an excellent job of working with us during the audit. Corrected and uncorrected misstatements, there were no uncorrected misstatements as part of the audit, and we had very few audit adjustments, which shows that the county already had its financial statements in order even before the audit started. Disagreements with management, we had no disagreements with management in terms of any audit or accounting issues. If we had any disagreements with management, we have to communicate those with you all. Management representations, we do request certain representations from management at the end of the audit. We get this in form of a signed representation letter. And then management's consultations with other independent accountants. As far as we're aware, management does not consult with any other independent accountants in terms of second opinion shopping. But again, those are just the standard communications we have to make to you all at the end of the audit. But again, a clean audit for the county. That's all I have, but be happy to answer any questions you have.
Who has comments on the audit?
Nothing. I've looked through the whole 169 pages, David, and the questions I have, I'll direct to Jennifer at a later time. But yeah, it's
Pretty big document.
the management discussion and analysis is well written and understandable. I appreciate that.
Anybody else have anything?
Sir.
Mr. Foley, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Ms. Warren, is there anything we should be pointing to? Should I ask you? Apologize.
No, nothing that David didn't cover. We do have a lot of extra copies if there is anyone that would like a copy.
We will have to do a number count. I know schools we give, so we'll go through and see what's available and then what's left. So you each have a copy. We just need to make sure like VEEP, social services,
Oh.
schools, all of them get their copies.
Mr. Foley, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Go get some rest.
All right, old business. FY '25 budget board feedback and suggestions. Mr. Weekly?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What you have in your packet was intentional because it's where we're picking up. So on the 14th, at your last budget work session, this was the presentation you received of the draft administration budget for FY '25. Notably, at that period of time, based on expenditures and revenues, we had no increased recommendations for real estate. We had no recommendation on increasing real estate. That is left at 74 cents per hundred. We did have a recommendation of increase in personal property from $3 to $3.60. 2 tax cycles ago, that was decreased from $3.60 to $3. Since that point in time, Ms. Warren has had a meeting with both our treasurer and the commissioner of revenue. I think that has brought about some favorable revenues in addition to what was projected as of March 14th. So I would like to have Ms. Warner be able to speak to that. And then that is going to lead to a new recommendation of moving from a 360 recommendation of tax rate for personal property to $3.40. So, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay with you, I'd like to
Please.
give the floor to Ms. Warren.
Of course.
Thank you. You should have a one-page summary in front of you, and I'll just walk through this. When I met with the Commissioner of the Revenue and the Treasurer, Stephanie Murray, we talked through, we had a lot of good numbers on how the year's tracking for several revenue categories. So they were able to make some modifications based on our year-to-date actuals, and the other thing they were able to change was Mr. Daniel had some new information on calculations for new construction that's coming, and also they factored in with the calendar year 2025, a new assessment being effective within this budget cycle. They were able to increase the projected real property revenues slightly, even though there will be equalization of the rate, there's always going to be some sort of an increase. And with their projections between the new construction and factoring in the reassessment, they were able to increase the real property number. So on this one pager, I list 7 different categories where we were able to increase revenues. The total increase in revenues we were able to find during our discussion totaled $264,202. And that is also factoring in a decrease in the personal property tax rate from 360 to 340. So that 264,000 captures that decrease, which I think is like 160,000 less if you go down, or no, 320,000 less if you go down 20 cents on that personal property tax rate. On the expenditure side, I was able to look through all of the department budgets and look to see how we were tracking on year-to-date actuals, have some discussions with some departments, and we were able to decrease by $128,776 on the expenditure side. Doesn't seem like a lot, but we were able to, we wanted to make sure that we still have a little bit of a buffer on certain categories that are unknown. However, we felt confident in the $128,776 decrease in expenditures. And a couple notes for you. This assessment, there's no change to the compensation study figures with these numbers. There's no changes to the outside agency funding that you guys looked at the last budget meeting. This scenario here takes into account a contingency fund totaling $430,000 in this figure. And then personal property tax would increase from the $3 to the $340 instead of $360. And then the total opening balance appropriation would decrease by $392,977. So it would go from $2,998,290, which was in this original budget meeting PowerPoint, down to $2,605,313. And of this $2.6 million opening balance appropriation, as we know, $2 million is related to new funding for the capital, needed for the capital budget, and $600K is related to operational expenditure increases. So this is just a brief overview of what we were able to determine with follow-on meetings between Treasurer, Commissioner of Revenue, departments, and myself. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
We have questions for Mrs. Warren.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one.
Please.
Ms. Warren, this is obviously good news, and I think it's a testament to how efficient the county runs and spends its money. But if I recall, the 340 amount is closer to what actual equalization would have been, correct?
That is correct.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, wasn't the equalized rate was what, 333?
So it's just
So
a
we're
few
down.
cents
Yeah, there you
above.
go. There you go. and bringing that beginning appropriation down certainly, especially with the huge offset of it all being or a substantial portion of it being capital, kind of reflects in a different way. Other comments on this? Please, Jonathan.
Just one other, and this is more internal, so we'll bring it back. Our plan is to send advertisement out to the Eagle on the 3rd. That has to go through another review headquarters before it gets published that following Thursday. So what we're going to ask here tonight, if the board's fine, the advertisement that Jennifer prepares will move to the 340 rate. The only changes that could or could not happen, there are 2 areas we're going to check on. Mr. Gordon, myself, and Ms. Warren are going to be working on kind of a final estimate of what we think the radio project may close out. We're going to be conservative of some things. That way we can look at a delta that may be there. And then certainly in the capital, that may cause a revision there as well. Lastly, of our ARPA funds, initially, where we did that spending approval plan, I think October 2021, it was about 2.5 million. That covered all things that were planned for broadband at the time, then there were some challenges. I'm going to have a follow-up conversation with DHCD and Thomas Jefferson Planning District. They have the MOU with Brightspeed. We know roughly 2.1 million of that stays with Firefly for their RISE project, but that 2.5 was planned to cover everything originally. So if there is no local match that's going to be required for the Brightspeed project, that's roughly $400K. We'll come back with the recommendation at that time, but I'm looking at capital projects. It would make sense to, push those monies towards capital project. ARPA monies have to be committed and expended before 2026. So what we would do if there was 400,000 available, certainly you can reduce your fund balance commitment to some of these projects because, as Ms. Warren stated, 2 million, I believe 2 million of monies would be targeted towards capital. So there could be some slight reduction. So I don't want to guarantee that today, but I do think there may be some other minor revisions. So here's what that looks like. You approve the 340, you always advertise, you can't go higher than the rate you advertise. You can go below. So we feel comfortable here tonight recommending the $3.40 rate. These last 2 capital items would be determined, and then we would bring that back. Certainly you would know that before your public hearing, and you can take action at a lower rate if you choose to do so, if there is some positive variables from those 2 reviews.
Essentially, all you're looking at is reducing if we go ahead and advertise at 340, all you're talking about is doing a potential reduction from the beginning appropriation of 2.6.
That is
Yeah.
correct.
All right.
Yep.
Comments on these? Anybody got anything?
Sounds like a plan.
240's fine with everybody? There you go. Mr. Weekly, please.
Thank you. I believe next is your draft secondary 6-year plan.
Oh, I thought you were going to go through your PowerPoint again. I've grown passionate about PowerPoint.
No, that budget?
Oh, yeah, thank God.
No, so that was a nice,
good.
that was a
It was a
carryover
real win.
from last time to now.
I'd like to have that electronic.
We'll
Okay.
do that, we'll amend the packet. Mr.
Yeah.
Gordon, thankfully, thank you, sir, passed out copies. This was kind of a, earlier today, favorable response, but that's why it was not in the packet.
All right, VDOT 6-year plan.
All right, so bringing this back before the board, as you may recall, Ms. Shepherd was here to provide you with their suggested 6-year secondary 6-year plan. I won't go over the list of roads that are in the plan unless you would like to do that. The conversation was about the 3 additional roads that were recommended to be added to the plan. As you know, if there's monies above and beyond that's available than what has been allocated to projects, generally VDOT will provide some recommended roads, and they look at roads that have at least 50 vehicle per day traffic counts and less than 1,500, as well as if they're wide enough to do the paving and if they qualify for rural rustic. So the three roads, thank you, Kim, that says proposed additions to the plan, that's the left corner, Mount Zion Church Road, Tom Johnston Road, and Wrights Lane. Before we continue, I did talk to Ms. Shepherd about Emmett's. Emmett Road, is longer than the I think roughly .2 segment, as you see above the top of your list. However, they would have to field verify that it qualifies. They believe the vehicle trips there, they'd have to go with the width and all that. My recommendation upon learning that is bring back that as a review for your next year's secondary six-year plan. It does just so happen that they plan on paving Emmett this coming year with this plan. Normally roads, and it's because it's such a small segment, normally roads, just because they get put on 1 year, it takes several years. Think of a bucket of money for each one of these road projects. It does not get advertised and moved to construction until that bucket is full. So staff recommends adding the 3 additional roads to your existing secondary six-year plan of Emmett, Whippoorwill, Walker's Mill, and Turner Drive. And if you are fine with that, the recommendation from staff would also be have your public hearing scheduled either for the second meeting in April, which would be April 23rd, or your first meeting in May 14th. But you are required to have a public hearing before you would move forward to adopt a secondary six-year plan.
All right, let me be clear.
Yeah,
Clear.
that's-
These,
that-
To Jennifer's
I'm
point,
with
the
you.
public.
Go ahead and say
The
that
budget
again.
public
Go.
hearing is on the 23rd as
so
well.
the Emmett, Whippoorwill, Walker's Mill, and Turner, they're already on there.
That is correct.
Okay, just.
I'm with you 100.
But the reason why you adopted, even though it's there are
Yeah.
years, as you may recall, where you removed the
No.
road and
Yeah.
replaced it with
But
another
the,
one.
the question is the proposed additions of the Cardy's gonna go is Mount Zion, Tom Johnson, and Wrights Lane. You wanna add those to the list this year, so in the next 20, 25 years, they'll get paved.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right.
So so you got Tom Johnston Road for $100,000. If you put them on the list, you put them, move it up one in
So
front?
I
or
would
does-
say,
does
if
that
you
matter?
have a priority, if you do have a priority of the 3, that is something that VDOT would like to see. If not, we would just say, look, you're the road engineers, prioritize them. But I can tell you, Tom Johnston Road is a cut-through road. That did see some culvert replacements. That does see a lot of traffic. Does that improve or increase when you pave it? One can guess. That goes between Carpenter's Mill, and I believe the other side is Ellie Road? Ellie Road. Mount Zions goes between Oak Park and, is it Ellie or John Tucker? I think Ellie. John Tucker. And then Wrights Lane is right off of Route 230 Orange Road.
It's a dead end.
It's a dead
Yeah.
end.
Oh,
Yeah, I talked to one of the landowners on Wrights Road today. I said, so do you want this, would you like to see this paved? Yeah, when we bought our property 20 years ago, they said it was going to be paved in 10. But the road is nice.
it's really good. Oh,
In the Tom Johnston Road, that's a tricky road. That
Yeah.
probably
So that
needs
one-
I think a priority on this.
my only caution on that is reprioritizing these things it seems to me that it causes delays coming from VDOT. Like you've got Emmett that's coming up imminently. Where would you, let's use Tom Johnson as a cut-through, low-dollar figure. Where would you like to see it on the list without messing with it too? Would it be after Turner Drive?
Mr. Chairman, the
Yes, sir.
priority comment would be around your proposed additions to the plan.
Yeah, all right, very good.
Yeah.
So you want it, so is your assertion, Jim, to do Tom Johnson potentially at the first of the proposed additions?
Yes, that's what I'm
All right, there you go.
suggesting.
All right. All right, who else has some opinions on the other two? Mount Zion's got to be more heavily traveled than Wrights Lane, good gosh.
Yeah, Mount Zion's interesting because either end is paved. It's that segment in the middle where there's more housing and some culverts in there, a little tricky.
All right, so we're gonna do Tom Johnson as number one, Mount Zion number two, and then Wrights Lane is number three. I will state, I've got property at the end of Wrights Lane. I like gravel roads. I could care less. That's just what it is. All right.
And as far as your, I've got those priorities, Mr. Chairman, as far as a public hearing date, and thank you, Ms. Warren. The budget public hearing is scheduled for April 23rd. You can schedule them both the same night if you want.
No,
I'm
we
just
should
mentioning-
do all the fun the same night.
Okay,
Hopefully the people from Forest Drive come.
okay.
Good.
So we'll set it for the 23rd.
All right.
All right, just to be clear, all right, so we've got the four at the top, they stay where they are.
Yes.
And then, okay,
Then it will go Emmett, Whippoorwill, Walkers, Turner Drive, the first piece. Then it'll be Tom Johnson, Mount Zion, and then Wrights Lane. There you go. Everybody good?
Yes.
All right. Is Carrie gonna come to the public hearing?
So I checked with her. She said it's possible. We're going to have the public hearing. It's not required, but I'm going to notify her the public hearing has been set and invite them to come.
Good.
Because the public's probably going to ask road questions
Yeah.
that they should be there to answer. But
That's
if
right.
they're unable, I'll ask if there's a secondary, if she's unable. If not, I'll try to answer the best I can.
Maybe Ed instead of Carrie. There you go. All right. Anybody else have anything on the secondary six-year plan? All right, let's move on. Mr. Jewett, tell us about your technology corridor and economic development area update.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, this is a report that was done in collaboration with all these folks listed. They were very helpful in helping to research and reach out to our neighboring communities. I also want to say that all of our sister counties in the area that I consulted with, they were all very accommodating and very courteous, very helpful, and it was great to work with these folks. A couple of things that I just want to highlight out of this, and then I'll take any questions. A few things that I learned is one is that the extent of our public utilities infrastructure, and some of that information, or a lot of that information, could not be included for proprietary and security reasons. We just have, if that information is ever needed for development, we obviously have access to that, but it's not for publication. And a few interesting things about technology, quote-unquote, zones is that one thing I came across over and over again is that these localities that have these technology zones, right now there's nothing in them but data centers. They would like to attract other technology business, but that's essentially all that's in these zones. And I did run across, and I've discussed this with you before, I ran across Rockingham County, which I thought took a novel approach to quote-unquote technology, in that at one time they had technology zones, but they've basically abandoned them. And their philosophy is that there is no such thing as a 100% complete non-technology company or business, and that all businesses that are for a prospective development, they have some element of high technology in them. Therefore, their incentives are geared towards any business that would use any type of advanced technology. And they've been able to successfully track all sorts of businesses to here in Rockingham County.
What were they calling their zone, Jim?
They used to be called technology zones, but now if you look in the documentation, it's just a technology incentive program. And it's not targeted to any geographical area of the county, nor again, any specific type of business. They do have the city of Harrisonburg does have a small data center, 69 kV power requirement. I talked to the director of economic development there, asked him, has there been any additional interest in such a data center? Incidentally, that's one of Anthem Insurance's data centers. And he said there has been, but it hasn't been overwhelming. But the traditional data centers that are in our neighboring localities, we do not have the power infrastructure to support them. We need 230 kV lines. We don't have that. They have to be bidirectional. My understanding is the county had an opportunity for that many years ago, but there was such a public outcry that it just didn't happen. It could happen if you had an end user that would come in here and request it, but you would be looking at a 5-year window to actually get that substation energized. So it's that at least this clarifies where we are on any prospective avenues for technology. But I will say that I think that I don't want this to be the end all. I think this should just be the beginning of looking at our economic development program, and particularly the incentives that we might want to construct or develop for attracting business. I think that should obviously include the Commissioner of Revenue. So that's basically where we're at. I did have a conversation with Supervisor Buchanan. We do have a very healthy tourism industry, but I think that there are opportunities for us to enhance that. And Supervisor Buchanan would like to take the lead on that, since that's his passion and that's his area of business. So that's kind of where we are. I think we just need to really start gelling around a specific economic policy. There's interest. There's interest for businesses to come into this county, but we haven't always been the most welcoming as far as both the government and the citizenry. And I think that's something that we're going to have to ask ourselves: what are we willing to do to help keep the burden on local taxpayers? And I think of Culpeper, and believe me, I do not want to become Culpeper County, but their real estate rate's 45 cents a hundred. It's almost half of what ours is, and that's because they have had the foresight over the years to attract certain development. So I think that's what we need to think about. Where are we going to go to keep the county as it is, as much as we can, but also alleviate the tax burden on our individual taxpayers?
Please.
Just a quick question. Your report is great, and you're talking about attracting government contractors, DOD-type businesses here. And I spoke to a friend of mine who's pretty high up in one of those government contracting businesses, and he asked us if we had contacted the Government Economic Council or even the Nova Virginia Technology Council to try to see what kind of monies or what kind of talent or people we can talk to try to attract those type of businesses here. So that was one of the issues, or one of the things he came up with. He was very excited to talk to me more about this, to try to come up with more ideas. A marketing plan that shows what Madison County has to offer to these companies that are around us, and maybe we have one, I don't know, but targeted towards maybe the DOD, government contracting businesses that can benefit from us. So those type of things were some of the ideas that we kicked back and forth.
Good comments. Yeah. All right. Tracy, you have anything to add on this?
We've always said we needed the infrastructure to attract businesses, which is why first thing we did was to get with the Central Infrastructure for Economic Development and work on site readiness. So we did that out at Wyland property. That, if we tried to move that along a little bit, along with infrastructure, and we worked maybe people like Jim's report says, water and power. And it's not necessarily meaning that we want a huge data center, because that got out like wildfire. Just stating that.
People are enthusiastic for it, of course. Yeah, that sounds right. Okay.
And also I requested an increase in the top.
What about, what can you address as far as marketing documentation for Madison County that we have in place currently?
Well, we basically are using our other agencies to help us right now. We don't have this infrastructure, so.
No. I was thinking we were gonna say comp plan. All right, I'd like to completely review this. Could we, Jonathan, do you have comments on this?
I'm waiting for you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'd like to completely review, come back, add it to an agenda in an upcoming meeting, hopefully not the budget and 6-year plan meeting. But then we can kind of go and make comments to you, Jim, and see which way we're going.
Well, I got
Yeah, please.
one thing. So, have you all seen the economic development piece of the comp plan? You might want to look at that draft and see where this dovetails into all that, because I think that one is, that section at this point was supposedly pretty close. So anyhow, if they, I don't know whether everybody's got it, I've got it, but
I can, to speak to that, I can send you we'll say the staff draft.
Yeah.
I guess it'd be a perfect segue to update. I'm waiting on, obviously, a call from my wife. Let me mute that. I'm waiting on, April. She's probably here gonna beat me. But, anyway, the, RRRC, we engage with them. I'm waiting on the scope of work and the proposal, and part of that is compiling. So certainly we can send out what I want to refer to as the staff draft. It is missing one or two, what they call final elements, I believe. Recreation is one of those, and utilities. So certainly you need the whole, but I can send out the draft that was kind of there pending, or after Mr. Webb's departure, so you can have that and start reviewing it. The goal would be to bring that draft back when it's compiled and give to the planning commission. The board at the same time, and this group will start deliberating and discussing. My comment, or I guess I have a question, so I'm a little more, maybe have some little more information when we come back with this. First, thanks to Mr. Jewett and those involved in putting this together. I know it's a lot of time and research with different localities. I heard marketing, so that got me thinking. And I've looked at some other counties' websites. So obviously, to Tracy's point, marketing what's available, but knowing what you all would like to see helps. But we can look to see, and if we have or maybe refine, you can see some localities say, how do you start a business? You can go to their website and see some of that. That speaks to me as maybe some smaller businesses which are needed. I'm not trying to make that minuscule. A data center or like a biomedical research that may be expansive. So either one of those things, the executive team would want to meet with them. But if you have a thought of the market study or a marketing, I should say, not a market study, a marketing, I'll take a look at that, and Tracy and Brian and myself to see maybe that's a packet that we can start putting together that at least covers the ground for some of these type of businesses. I had a gentleman reach out, I've got to get back to tomorrow. Hey, I think he's from Florida, looking to buy this particular property. Can I store equipment there? Don't want to run a business, but I want to store equipment. Well, we got to look through that. But some of those things we can put out there and kind of help ourselves. So thank you I'm seeing head nods, so we'll start talking about how do you start a business type of packet material, and then bring that and keep some of your, or for your feedback comments we'll get at the next meeting.
And we are sold statewide on the state's website for properties that we do have. And then it's kind of sold statewide with sites that we have, marketed regionally, and those people actually go to international trips, host on their person national trip. Not market everybody, and they know, just because we don't have a site that's listed, still send it to us. And then we sell it. And some people, I fought hard for that Department of Agriculture. I know you may not know this. We got on the medium list for the Department of Agriculture. That's now the DIY place. And I fought hard, and quality of life is what was selling them. So it's a very large presentation I put through. And we do have how to start a business, but it's not as detailed as
We've got to think of a better title for that. That was a terrible, terrible title. How to
Well,
start a
that's part of this
business. Good
recon,
Lord.
so we know
We
titles.
need to do
Same
something
side.
better than that.
Well, what we do know, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, is, so when you hear Tracy say site readiness, I said a lot of these meetings, the same thing. They look for a certain acreage of property, and a lot of times what we find is that we don't have that acreage that's on the market. Now, certainly if somebody's coming to us and say, hey, I'd like to do this, we can go beyond of what is on the market. Maybe we talk to some of you all or some folks we know that are landowners and say, hey, not trying to impose, but there's some interest for acreage, what say you for your property? They might tell me pound sand, but we can ask. But what I would say is the size of acreage sometimes is deterring. We struggle trying to find, I think it was a perfect 10-acre site for that drone business that ultimately went to Orange. So it is about knowing what you have available and marketing it. To be a player in agriculture or even technology corridor, kind of agricultural tech, if you will, a lot of that requires natural gas. So I drove back from the regional or detention meeting yesterday, Culpeper. Well, just stars align, their gas lines run along their major thoroughfare. That's why you see those greenhouses along Route 3 in some of those areas. So I think we have a better idea, thank you, sir, at where our gas is located. It becomes what's available and who may have interest in selling property. If it's already A1, that's a big plus. It doesn't mean don't discuss it or do you want to hear not. It's already zoned appropriately. So I just want to let you know some of the factors that are being considered is, she just got one today, proximity to interstate, needs to be 2 to 3 miles. So we will fight for what we can get here. It doesn't mean we can't get things, but just hearing your feedback is very helpful for us if it's a marketing packet or the type of businesses that you are looking to have here.
Mr. Chairman, I got one more
Please,
comment.
by all means.
Through this process, and we kept hearing the same thing, and this is what we've all heard forever and ever, is that, well, what does Madison want to do? Does it want to be Green? Does it want to be Culpeper? Does it want to be Rappahannock? And I think that's the wrong way to approach this. We want to be what's going to be good for Madison. We're going to set our own way. And that way, we can keep the county the way that we want to keep the county and not have external forces dictate to us ultimately what this county is going to look like. And I hope that we can communicate that to citizens as we go through this process, involve citizens in the process. But, we don't want to adopt a passive role in our economic development, because then we won't have any control over it ultimately. Thank you. That's all.
That was good. Let's review it. Let's add it to an agenda moving forward. What is a responsible? I like putting dates on stuff because if not, we just forget about it. What about if we brought this back sometime first meeting in May? Does that seem reasonable? That gives us a little bit.
May 14th?
Yeah. Let's put this on that agenda, and then it gives us some time, and we can kind of go at it. All right?
So if we got this electronic,
Yeah. Can we get it electronic, Jim?
It is, it's actually, it's on OneDrive in the technology folder.
oh,
The only thing is, if you view it directly on OneDrive, the title page, because of words messed up, you gotta change it. The easiest thing is just to download it. And open it up.
All right. Very good. Thank you again. New business. We've got a fireworks permit from Fellowship Baptist Church.
Yes,
Mr.
sir,
Wakely.
Mr. Chairman, and I believe if we haven't, we will be updating our form. Some of these forms are pre-existing, or we have other things under review that we may add to these forms in the future. So we want to recognize and that we know this permit was printed from the website and it has Ms. Hoffman's name. We respectfully acknowledge that Mr. Buchanan is with us and not Ms. Hoffman. So we can scratch through that, but that's how that permit made its way through. This is a permit put out well in advance. This is required for those who wish to not only display, but shoot off the aerial fireworks and this is the way to do that. Also, just to let you know that if any of these are approved, once we sign those, we circulate those back to first response group, because usually it's dispatch that get these calls of, what's going on over here, or the sheriff doesn't need to send someone because they have a list of permits for that event. So standard process. Again, apologies for not catching and changing that letterhead, that form. This is a display and fireworks on July 6th, so it is well in advance, but it is normal procedure to approve via the permit application.
We got any comments on this one? Brian, are we good on this? There you go. What would y'all like to do with this fireworks permit?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Fellowship Baptist fireworks permit for July 6th, 2024.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We've got a resolution 2024-3, and that's to allow us to go to the meeting at JMU on the 27th of April. Mr. Weekly?
Yes, and I know he's not here tonight. We'll give all the credit to Sean Gregg.
Good job, Sean Gregg.
No, Mr. Wright prepared this resolution. Again, thanks to Mr. Jewett. He has led the efforts for the, I don't know if it's appropriate term, capstone project. The JMU is heavily involved with our strategic asset and planning system. This resolution, if you were to approve tonight, allows you all, it's given notice that you all can attend that as a body. So this resolution is the vessel to do so.
Looks great. Really looking forward to it, and anytime you can get exposed to something like this, I mean, I see it as nothing but positive, no matter what the end results are. What would y'all like to do with resolution 2024-3?
A motion to approve Resolution 2024-3 to hold a regular meeting at James Madison University's Hartman Hall on April 27th at 1 o'clock.
Seconds.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, ratification of the declaration of the local emergency. Mr. Weekly?
Yes, sir. As many of you are aware, and for the general public, based on last week's event, the active fires, high winds, electric lines going down, a local emergency was declared on March 2024. So it's required at the next board meeting ratification. So this is normal process. You have done this back in the fall when we had the wildfire at Quaker Run. I think prior to that, there was a winter storm in January. So this is a requirement to ratify. There is a motion prepared, assuming passage of ratifying the declaration. Staff is recommending you present the motion to lift the local emergency, or the declared local emergency. So the first process would be ratifying your declaration of emergency, and then the second separate action would be making the motion to lift the declared local emergency. And I respectfully, Mr. Gordon, did I miss anything, sir? All right.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move to ratify the declaration of local emergency dated March 20th, 2024.
Need a second.
I second.
All right, motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Now, we need to rescind, please.
I move to rescind the declaration of emergency made on March 20th, 2024 as a result of the countywide fires, as a result of severe weather, including high winds and dry conditions.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Yeah, there
That
you
was
go.
tough.
What's the burn law in effect right now?
No active burning except between 4 and midnight, can't add to it after midnight.
There you go. Good. Thank you.
There are loopholes in that. You have to read the code. You can burn at 12 o'clock
Yes, stick with that, stick with that. No, yeah, 4 to midnight. Be cautious, that's the name of the game. All right. No other new business. Anybody have anything we need to discuss? All right, Madison Code update. Ms. Turner, please.
So I spoke with you guys recently about what our services are through MuniCode to have the Madison Code online. So I'm happy to report that our Supplement 4, which is our most update for the Madison Code, is completely updated online, and we also received the paper versions of that. So anyone who has a binder in their county office has received a little packet of the supplements. So everything should be completely updated.
Good. And that update was as of what date?
So it was through January, but it takes them a little while to collect everything and make the changes. This was once a year, so it's everything from the previous year. Moving forward, it'll be done twice a year, and that'll be at the end of the fiscal year and the end of the calendar year.
And just to add, still her work, but to add that the Ord Bank subscription was part of the upgrade, so not only are we going from once a year to twice a year publications, Ord Bank, I know it sounds weird because all of it's online, but before they publish online, as part of the supplement, anything that's been approved by the board will show up in Ord Bank. Do you have a moment? We pull it up. We won't keep you long, I promise. I know we're getting something else. She will show you again on the webpage, under the ordinance, what the pendant looks like. I believe it looks like the gavel. If there's something there, it will show. That way the public or the board, like for a while there, short-term rentals, you know, it's like, I know it existed, and it just wasn't showing up, well, it was pending publication. So anytime moving forward, if something has been approved but pending published by MuniCode, it will at least show up there. There will be, I don't know if it's denoted in blue or what, but you'll see a listing. This is reflective that I believe they have all of our supplementals finally published, so no test subject right now to show you, but maybe we'll send this out again, a link, if and when you have one that's pending. But I do think it's helpful for the public as well as you all to reminder of how to see those pending items. Thank you, Ms. Turner.
Anybody have any comments on this? Thank you, Ms. Turner. All right, public comment. Public comment. Public comment. We did receive an email from Don McCowan, is that right? From PEC. He was talking about PEC values gravel roads. So there you go. Anybody? All right, we do have a closed session this evening. Thank you all.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move that the board convene in a closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Sections 2.2-3711A1 for personnel.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right.
This conference
So you
is no
seconded?
longer being recorded.
Good.